Dem Chicago alderman slams Dem leaders for refusing Trump's help with crime. You would think you will want the best interest for your people. You will want people safe. You would think you will want him to come in, the federal government to come in and lend assistance. We're not talking about a full federal takeover of Chicago. We're talking about bringing in some federal resources to help with what's going on in Chicago. You would think you will want that help. You would think you will want your community safe. But because Mayor Johnson and Governor Pritzker are so anti-Trump, they're refusing to do what most people in Chicago want to happen. They have protests where a few people are protesting, but overwhelmingly the people in Chicago want to feel safe. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Daily Caller, and they report that Democratic Chicago Alderman Raymond Lopez criticized Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Democratic Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson for rejecting President Donald Trump's assistance with crime. Both the governor and mayor have been staunch opponents of Trump's, suggesting that he would consider sending the National Guard to tackle crime in the city. On News Nation Prime, Lopez said the two leaders' opposition was politically motivated rather than aimed at improving public safety in Chicago. That's exactly what it is. It is definitely politically motivated. If you care about the people, you wouldn't care about politics and you will put the people first. But of course, these two people that has higher aspirations would not put the people first. But let's play this clip here, hear what this alderman has to say about the whole thing. Here we go.
Kelly, that a lot of this has to do with politics, and I believe, Kelly, that a lot of this has to do with politics and nothing to do with keeping communities safe. As you stated, if we are already decreasing our crime stats, why shouldn't we push and decrease even more? Why shouldn't we make one less victim of violence in the city of Chicago? And I feel that the governor and the mayor are refusing to accept the president's help, both in terms of the National Guard as well as with additional federal agency support here in the Windy City, because they don't want to be viewed as capitulating and working with the president of the United States for their own political purposes. One wants to be president, one hopes to remain mayor, and they think that their path to victory lies in standing up to Donald Trump. In the meantime, all of the 2.7 million people who make up the 77 communities of the city of Chicago are caught in the political crosshairs and are paying the price on the streets in the city of Chicago every single day.
And you have said these troops would have the ability to guard posts as a deterrent, that would free up some local authorities to go out and fight crime. What are you hearing from your constituents on the west side of the city?
So I represent the southwest side of Chicago. I interact with people on the south and west side all the time who are in some of the most crime-ridden neighborhoods in the city. Everyone wants to see our police officers answering those 911 calls that oftentimes go unanswered by the thousands every single day here in the city of Chicago. We don't need officers.
Wow. Imagine that. You calling the police for help and no one shows up. No one's showing up, but yet they saying they're fine. They don't want federal help. They don't need Donald Trump's help. They said thousands of calls go unanswered. That's crazy. I couldn't imagine calling the police needing help and no one shows up.
Guarding tourist attractions. That's a job that the National Guard can do. What we do need is our police officers in the neighborhoods answering those calls, going after those gangbangers, drug dealers, and human traffickers that we know are here. Additionally, when we talk about having, for example, Tom Homan, who says expect something next week, under the Biden-Harris administration, of the 60,000 Venezuelan migrants that were shipped here, 2,000 of them were vetted by the previous administration and identified not only as threats to our communities, but threats to our nation. And that's who Tom Homan has been asking our leaders here in Illinois and Chicago for help in identifying, arresting, and working with them to have them deported from this country. Our governor, our mayor, and all of their allies said, if you want them, come get them. We're not going to help you. Well, Next week, they're going to arrive here and they're going to go after those threats in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, and you were making that point on Vargas just days ago. I appreciate you bringing it up tonight. You had mentioned they're in the thousands. This is what we're talking about. What threat do you believe those folks here in the city pose to residents?
I know the threat that they pose to the citizens of the city of Chicago and to their fellow migrants. In Gage Park, for example, which I happen to represent, we have Trendera Agua operating here that are engaging in human trafficking, selling women for as little as $150 through Facebook Marketplace. In Canaryville, we had two teenagers going home from.
They are literally selling sex on Facebook Marketplace. How does Facebook get away with that, allowing that stuff on their platform? Yet I say anything negative about the jab and I would get the boot. Like, that's crazy, right? Wow.
School stalked by a migrant, and both of them shot, one of them killed. And in back of the yards, because of ongoing gang disputes, we had a young man who was shot in the back of his head walking home in the evening. For me, this is not a rhetorical question. This is not a political game of chicken that I get to play with Donald Trump. There are lives that I see at stake every single day, impacted by the violence that has been brought upon us. And we need every tool in the toolbox, even if it comes from a Republican president.
We saw that large protest taking place yesterday against deploying the National Guard in Chicago. What do you believe a potential deployment may mean for the city? How do you see that playing out?
Safety. It means safety for the city.
Despite the rhetoric and gaslighting that we've seen by our Democratic elite, I don't believe that National Guard is going to be sent here as an invading force to try and undo our democratic institutions in City Hall and in Springfield. They are here to catch bad guys. They are here to support our police officers, whom, by the way, anxiously await the arrival of. They would love to have some additional support. They would love to be able to have the FBI, ATF, and DEA work with our local police officers to help bring federal charges to those individuals who commit crimes in our neighborhoods. Everyone who believes in law and order, everyone who believes in public safety beyond the politics is excited for what may happen in the coming weeks. And it's a shame that it gets lost in translation with our extreme left Democratic colleagues.
Yeah, and I've seen tons of people online from Chicago literally begging President Trump to come in with the National Guard to clean up the streets because it's so bad out there. It's crazy. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.